Warning: the following podcast, which contains strong language and mature content, is unsuitable for children or for the faint of heart. The subject matter discussed will be frightening and graphic in nature. Listener discretion is advised.
When you want to hear about the paranormal, you get the Spooked Girls. True crime that makes you hypothermal. With the three Spooked Girls. Stabby snippets will give you dreams. Tara and Jessica will make you along with the Spooked Girls. Bring on the slaughter. We on that haunted ground. The three Spooked Girls.
Hey Spooksters, and welcome back to another episode here on Three Spooked Girls. My name is Tara, and as always, I'm here with my ghoul friend Jessica.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so this is an emergency recording because if you live under a rock, you're not going to know, but I'll tell you in a minute. But those that are following this whole CEO shooting that's been going on, they did make an arrest on a, quote, strong person of interest. So we're going to talk about it because I spent way too many hours looking into this and took way too many notes. But I told Jessica, I was like, emergency when you get home.
Oh no, I was here for it. Let's do this shit.
So we're going to just go ahead and get into it because I'm not going to even, if you're new and want to know about us on our socials, go check the show notes. So the reason we're here today is because after a tip was called in by a McDonald's employee in Altoona, Pennsylvania, authorities arrested their strong person of interest, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. I think I'm saying it wrong, maybe, because I've heard his last name like 3 different ways. We're just going to call him Luigi or him or whatever I say. Mangione, I think it is. It's weird because the fucking, we're going to start cussing 2 seconds into this. It's fine. The governor that was at the press conference said it like a totally weird way. So then my brain was just like, what the hell? I don't know.
Oh, I can sympathize. You know me, like if someone messes up a name and they say it to me wrong, I'm like, I don't know how to speak anymore.
Yep, I know. So they arrested him today on December 9th. They also had an emergency preliminary arraignment that took place at 6 p.m. Eastern. So FYI, he is being held without bail and he does not have his next court appearance until December 23rd.
Wow. Well, technically that's not that long. That's actually kind of fast when you think of the court system in today's world.
It's like less than
2 weeks from today.
Mm-hmm. Well, it gets interesting though because yes, obviously he was caught in Pennsylvania, and I'll get into those details in a minute, but the crime occurred in Manhattan. So on December 4th, just 5 days ago from when we're recording this, the CEO of UnitedHealth Group, Brian Thompson, was arriving to the Hilton Hotel in downtown Manhattan just before 6:45 a.m. And of course, it being New York and a giant hotel, there are surveillance cameras. So we got footage as soon as the news broke. In the footage, there was a masked gunman who shot Thompson in the chest and shot him in, they believe, the leg and then also his back. And when you're watching him shoot Thompson, the weapon does jam. So he's like fixing it before he continues shooting. And it was just like a really weird thing. Like it just didn't seem real. It was, this whole thing is just really, really weird.
Right.
And there was people there in the area. There was somebody else nearby that as soon as he took the first shot, they fucking dipped because they're trying to protect themselves.
Right.
After that, he literally left on an electric bike. It was one of those like city bikes. Ran away. I'm really trying not to laugh because I know it's not funny. Murder's not funny. He ran away to Central Park on a bike and left a backpack with Monopoly money in it.
I think that's the problem with this case. Is that you're like, okay, a man lost his life and that's extremely tragic and that's nothing to laugh at. But it's kind of like watching, what is that, like the Pink Panther? Like how shit like that. It was so weird. It was like people had seen his face. It's just like the way that this happened.
Weird.
Really was bizarre
Yes.
is the only way to actually explain it. But when I read that it was Monopoly money in the backpack, because how do you not laugh at that? It's Monopoly money. It'd be like if you opened up and you found like coupons, like grocery store coupons, you'd be like, what the fuck?
No, for real.
So weird.
Yeah, very strange. So Thompson was pronounced dead that day at Mount Sinai West. Upon seeing the surveillance and everything at first, the authorities had stated that the gun appeared to be a ghost gun, which would have been made on a 3D printer that was capable of firing 9mm rounds.
Damn.
They also found a suppressor on him when they found him later. And of course, the big thing that also made this go viral was the fact that at the crime scene, they found ammunition with the words delay, deny, dispose on there, which was mimicking a phrase used by insurance industry critics.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what a ghost gun is, I'm sure you can guess. It's very DIY. It's a type of weapon that can be assembled at home from parts without serial numbers, making them difficult to trace, and then also makes sense why he would use a 3D printer for putting it together type of situation.
Super duper illegal, people.
Yeah, don't do that.
Ghost guns. Just want to point that out.
Yeah. They stated that one of the critical components in this is the part known as the lower receiver. Some are sold in a DIY kit and others are typically just made from metal or polymer. So there's been a few press conferences with this. The NYPD commissioner, Jessica Tisch, said that the gunman had been laying in wait for several minutes. Obviously, we already know this stuff, but we're just going to summarize it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Before he shot him, then he got on the city bike, went to Central Park. At first, nobody had seen him. He was gone without a trace. And the original reward was $10,000. And then this was recently increased to $50,000 for any info tips, etc. Like Jess said, we do see his face in some of the surveillance footage. He originally had a mask on when he went to Starbucks. Not only did he pull it down to flirt with the barista, and that's how they got his face, he also left a burner phone, a water bottle, and a protein bar wrapper. So not only does that have DNA evidence on it, but they were able to confirm that on the water bottle, there was a partial print.
Oh.
Yeah. And all of this happened before the attack. I think I read it was about like an hour before. And in case anyone's wondering, he is a Taurus. His birthday is on May 6th. And I'm like, of fucking course.
Luigi, you're doing us dirty, man.
They obviously started collecting surveillance footage from his path because, like I said, we know he went to Central Park. Then he walked a couple blocks and got into a taxi and he arrived at the George Washington Bridge bus station. This offers commuter service to New Jersey and bus routes to Philly, Boston, and DC. We go days without any information. It's literally all over social media. There's all kinds of threads and tweets and videos and all the things, you know, because people are looking at a much bigger picture. They're looking at it because the reality is the United States healthcare system is fucking trash. Everyone knows that.
And United is like the worst offender of them.
The worst. So a lot of people are reacting not exactly how the general public typically reacts about murderers and such.
Yeah, comment sections be feral.
Yeah, there was a lot of things, and there was people that have named him the Adjuster. You guys can figure out that pun in that.
Yeah.
People have talked about him being kind of like a modern day Robin Hood, eat the rich, that kind of thing.
But he kind of also looked like it.
Yeah.
Because like what he was wearing, I was like, that's when I saw his photo. I was like, oh, he kind of looks like Robin Hood. Oh, I wonder if he did that on purpose. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised.
I was like, okay, we just fully on going out to be like I told Tara earlier, I was like, people are not reacting the way that people react normally.
No, this is, I don't even know. I don't even have a word. It's bizarre. Bizarre is just the word. There's no other word. Like I said, there was days without really any updates. They were looking for all that stuff, right? Well, like I mentioned, there was a tip that came in from a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. There is a little bit of variation on this. One is saying that a customer came and told the staff at the McDonald's, and obviously they called 911. And then others have said like just the employees who called 911, whatever. But anyway, called in. They were like, we got your dude. Come look. So they come over to this McDonald's. He was sitting at a table near the back of the McDonald's and he was wearing a blue medical mask. He was on a laptop and had a backpack on the floor. Authorities said when he pulled down his masks, they immediately recognized him as a suspect, quote. So, of course, they're going to ask for ID. This is when he whips out his stuff, and he's got multiple IDs. A fake ID that's a New Jersey driver's license. It has a different name, a different birthday, all of that stuff. The name on it was Mark Rosario. Surveillance from the hostel that they had got, the fake ID that he had on his person matched what he used to check in there. And the mask he was wearing was still the same one from all the pictures we saw on the day it happened. So it was really weird. He was also still carrying the weapon on his person. Another weird thing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and this had a silencer with it, or a suppressor, whichever you want to call it.
I don't know why I said, oh, no, like that. Like, he's
like
not
you
the killer.
didn't know.
Well, also, like, I'm like, oh, no, he got caught with the weapon. Dude, I'm just like, if you're going to kill someone, dump the weapon. Don't kill people. Again, murder is terrible.
I'm telling you, though, I feel like this is all possibly a part of the plan. Who knows? Allegedly, because there's also alleged that he's a fall guy for some reason. But we'll skip that for now. So he had the weapon, and they're like, oh my God, this is, I'm trying to think of the verbiage they use. This is consistent with the murder weapon. I remember reading that. Okay. I was like, it's the same. Okay, we got it. So in the backpack, they found a black 3D printed pistol and a 3D printed black silencer. And the pistol had a metal slide and a plastic handle with a metal threaded barrel. This happened early in the day. They took him into custody at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
He had to get that, like, McMuffin.
I mean, homie, McDonald's, like...
Does McDonald's have Wi-Fi? Like,
yes.
I'm trying to figure out, like, why he was just chilling at McDonald's.
I mean, he's just, like, a McDonald's stan, because when his social media accounts were still up, he had a picture with, like...
Oh, yeah.
McDonald's.
That was on my feed today, and I was like, again, he's just, like, a young guy, and I'm like, stop being, like, relatable murderer. Stop it.
Yeah, it's really weird. The whole thing's just weird.
I know.
Now, with cases like this and other ones we've talked about, when they have big cases, they usually will get them on charges they know they're 100% going to be like, yep, you're getting indicted for this type of shit. And you also have to keep in mind, he's in Pennsylvania right now. So this is different. There's going to be different things. So they're in Pennsylvania. When they did detain him, they charged him with 1 count of forgery, grade 2 felony, 1 count of carrying a firearm without a license, a grade 3 felony, 1 count of tampering with records or identification, grade 1 misdemeanor, 1 count of possessing instruments of crime, grade 1 misdemeanor, and 1 count of false identification to law enforcement, which is a grade 3 misdemeanor. Also on his person, there has been a lot of talk about this manifesto that he had with him. This was a 2 to 3 page handwritten psycho killer big plan thing, right? And now what's interesting is that at this time when we're recording this, I've got quotes. They haven't released the full thing, and people have thoughts about that. So we have NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch again. She said, quote, officers recovered a handwritten document that spoke to both his motivation and mindset. And quotes from it, because I watched several interviews today and coverage on this. There was one with I think it was shoot, I can't remember what media outlet it was, but some of the other quotes in there that he wrote was, I do apologize for any strife or trauma, but it had to be done. These parasites had it coming. I acted alone. I'm self-funded. And other topics besides, just healthcare, he is said to have mentioned the housing crisis, the housing industry that's going on right now. He had a lot of thoughts and questions about why do we, meaning the US, and obviously don't quote me on, I can't say what's fact and what's not. This is exactly what he's writing, right? He said that, quote, why do we have the most expensive healthcare in the world while being rated 42 in life expectancy? That's a great question.
This case won't just be about the murder of Brian Thompson.
No, and that's not what the focus is at all.
No. And unfortunately, my heart goes out to his family. I mean, he had a family, and even if he is a terrible CEO and made terrible business practices, no one should take another person's life. I think fundamentally we all agree on that. However, it's really hard to be feel bad for him when hundreds of thousands of people get denied claims due to prior authorization, and it's all to save money. And we hear stories of people who who are actively like in chemotherapy and they have like 1 or 2 rounds left and the insurance company denies those last rounds because they quote unquote think they've had enough chemo to be standard. Even though the doctor's like, I think you need 2 more rounds, that gets denied and people die. And I think I see this a lot because of like what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And we hear these stories all the time and they break my heart and I cry. And it's just, but I have to also remind myself that like someone lost a son, someone lost a dad, a spouse, people lost a friend. So,
yeah. And so other topics he was talking about on social media prior to this crime, he would be like all about talking about, you know, rallying against corporate America, profiteering, taking advantage of the consumer, and that it started escalating, and said things about how protest in itself is ineffective and that violence is the next step that has to be taken. Can kind of like paint a picture on like how he got to where he is right now.
Right.
If that's what his train of thought was. So who is Luigi? So let's talk about it. I listened to a bunch of different press conferences and stuff. And so he was born and raised in Towson, Maryland. His last known address, though, connects with Honolulu, Hawaii. He also had ties with San Francisco. He did graduate as valedictorian from Gilman School, which is a fun fact, an all-boys prep school, and has a $40,000 tuition yearly.
Damn.
Yeah, it goes without saying he comes from a wealthy family. On top of that, he graduated from University of Pennsylvania with a bachelor's, and then he also has a master's in engineering, computer, and information science. He also worked as an AI teaching assistant at Stanford in 2019. And I was reading that's also where he got his master's from, but don't quote me on that.
Damn. So like pricey schools.
Yeah. And according to his LinkedIn, he began working as a data engineer at TrueCar Inc., which is an auto retail website out of Santa Monica, California, starting in November of 2020. So shortly after he like graduated or whatever. However, of course, media has reached out to like all these schools, all these employers and everything. And he hasn't worked for TrueCar since 2023. But that's like obviously all they can say.
Right.
Also, on top of social medias, he had a Goodreads. It's now private, but not before some screenshots could be taken. So you guys might remember a guy named Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Yes, and how Ted wrote Industrial Society and Its Future.
His manifesto.
Yes, he wrote a very, very lengthy review on this. Are you ready?
I'm here for it.
Oh my god, it's like a fucking short story. So this is what Luigi said. Clearly written by a mathematics prodigy, reads like a series of lemmas on the questions of 21st century quality of life. It's easy to quickly and thoughtlessly write this off as a manifesto of a lunatic, in order to avoid facing some of the uncomfortable problems it identifies. But it's simply impossible to ignore how prescient many of his predictions about modern society turned out. He was a violent individual, rightfully imprisoned, who maimed innocent people. While these actions tend to be categorized as those of a crazy Luddite, however, they are more accurately seen as those of an extreme political revolutionary. A take I found online that I think is interesting. He had the balls to recognize that peaceful protest has gotten us absolutely nowhere, and at the end of the day, he's probably right. Oil barons haven't listened to any environmentalists, but they feared him. When all other forms of communications fail, violence is necessary to survive. So here was where they grabbed that from. You may not like his methods, but to see things from his perspective, it's not terrorism, it's war and revolution. Fossil fuel companies actively suppress anything that stands in their way, and within a generation or two, it will be costing humans their lives by greater and greater magnitudes until the Earth is just a flaming ball orbiting third from the sun. Peaceful protest is outright ignored. Economic protest is impossible in the current system. So how long until we recognize that violence against those who led us to such destruction is justified as self-defense? These companies don't care about you or your kids or grandkids. They have zero qualms about burning down the planet for a buck. So why should we have any qualms about burning them down to survive? We're animals just like everything else on this planet, except we forgot the law of the jungle and bend over for our overlords when any other animal would recognize the threat and fight to the death for their survival. Violence never solved anything is a statement uttered by cowards and predators.
Wow.
And I got another, one more thing to read you.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
It was very well written. I want to point that out, but
Yeah. More very blatant signs, right?
Yeah.
And that was posted on January 31st of this year.
Of this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks.
And the most recent comment on Goodreads that was mentioned that he liked before everything was private was I don't know who the person, I don't know what it was. It's like some quote, but it says, America is the wealthiest nation on earth, but it's people who are mainly poor and poor Americans who are urged to hate themselves. To quote the American humorist Ken Hubbard, it ain't no disgrace to be poor, but it might as well be. It is in fact a crime for an American to be poor, even though America is a nation of poor. Every other nation has folk traditions of men who were poor, but extremely wise and virtuous, and therefore more estimatable than anyone with power or gold. No such tales are told by the American poor. They mock themselves and glorify their betters. The meanest eating or drinking establishment, owned by a man who is himself poor, is very likely to have a sign on its wall asking the cruel question, if you're so smart, why ain't you rich? There will also be an American flag no larger than a child's hand, glued to a lollipop stick and flying from the cash register. Americans, like human beings everywhere, believe many things are obviously untrue. Their most destructive untruth is that it is very easy for any American to make money. They will not acknowledge how, in fact, hard money is to come by, and therefore, those who have no money blame themselves. This inward blame has been a treasure for the rich and the powerful, who have had to do less for their poor, publicly and privately, than any other ruling class since Napoleon's time. Many novelties have come from America. The most startling of these, a thing without precedent, is a mass of undignified poor. They do not love one another because they do not love themselves. Kurt Vonnegut from Slaughterhouse-Five. So that goes hand in hand with his review, I felt.
Yeah.
Very, interesting that all of these things are very much out there.
If you're, reading Ted Kaczynski's manifesto and you're
leaving a thoughtful review like that?
Yeah, that. But also, if you're empathizing with it, or if you're kind of, sympathizing, maybe the better word, and you're kind of this is hitting home. Once you said that, I was like, yeah, he just he read that within a year and then wrote out an action plan.
Apparently, yeah. So his family, I scoured what I could. Obviously, it's very limited on what's out there besides public information.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of details on who exactly his parents are and things like that, but they do own the Turf Valley Resort and Hayfields Country Club. So they are obviously from money. And according to the country club's website, the venue is a, quote, family-owned private country club overlooking the spectacular view of Oregon Ridge in Hunt Valley, Maryland.
Oh.
The club offers members exclusive access to an elite golf course, practice facilities, rec areas, and casual dining, in addition to an active lifestyle. And then the Turf Valley Resort is located in Ellicott City, Maryland, and is a total property of 1,000 acres.
Oh.
So that's fucking huge.
That's big.
Yes. Also, he is the cousin of Maryland State Delegate Nino. I'm not going to say the last name again. You guys can look him up. I'm sorry. I'm just done with it because it's late. I can't fucking pronounce shit. I'm sorry. And he's been in office since 2019 and is a member of the Republican Party. Antonio, or Nino, has not publicly commented on his younger cousin's arrest or any possible connections to the murder. He is a member of the Maryland House of Delegates, representing District 42A since 2023, District 42B from 2019 to 2023. He also served as a Baltimore County co-chair for the state's Trump Victory Leadership County team. So I'm not going to say anything else on that, but I'm just had to tell you this context in Jessica's face. We're going to move on now.
Not surprised.
Okay, so additional things that I found while sifting through people's thirst comments and all other kind of fuckery, right? So there's people, because he's a real person, obviously. People were bound to come out of the woodworks who know him or have family or whatnot, right? So someone is related to alleged. You guys can believe this or not. But I did see it reported, and I saw an x-ray. He did get into a really bad surfing accident and had a pretty serious back surgery. It looked like they put in, I don't know if they're screws or what, but they put they almost look like nails, but they're probably screws, into his back.
Oh, shit.
It was said that this left him with really bad, like, mobility issues, which made him depressed. And he allegedly went off, like, basically the deep end, started, like, taking substances, and basically has been, like, MIA for, like, the whole year, pretty much.
I mean, trauma like that can change your brain chemistry.
For sure. I'm not going to speculate anything. I don't know if, like, anyone knew where he was or if this was, like, any kind of pattern. I'm assuming since he actually successfully got through school, probably not. So I don't know. That's up for interpretation or as more information comes out. But like I said, he is not due back in court with Pennsylvania until the 23rd of this month. But the thing is, too, with the Manhattan prosecutors, they could seek to expedite indicting him and bring him back while he's still there and everything.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they could obtain what's known as a Supreme Court warrant or a fugitive warrant to get him back there. It's kind of just a waiting game on if that is going to happen. I read some articles saying, like, the likelihood of that is, there's just a lot that goes into, like, the different laws and stuff. But I'm like, well, I mean, if we're going to play this game, we're not stupid. He killed a billionaire CEO. They're probably going to try to get him back. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he got scooted back over there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see kind of like what happens with that.
It's also the holiday season. Just pointing out, it's also the holiday season. People might not want to work too hard knowing he's in custody.
True. Yeah, this is true.
Like, it's not like he's out and about. I mean, he was caught with a ghost gun. Like, regardless of what he gets found for the murder, he's going to do time. So he's not going anywhere. So, like, I could see this if, like, he was up for bail. You know, they extradite him and get him. But, like,
definitely.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got no bail. I'm really interested to see what comes out over the next couple weeks. I know it probably won't be a ton because obviously, like, they're not trying to compromise the investigate. I mean, I don't really, like, there's not really an investigation to be had if they take the weapon and then they do the fucking ballistics and it, you know, like, everything confirms he's on video. But I don't know.
I guess my one question is, like, what is ballistics like on a ghost gun?
Yeah, I know. I have no idea.
You know?
I don't know. If anyone listening is, like, familiar with this or works, like, in that field, let us know. I'd love to learn more about that. It's really interesting because, of course, there's a lot of talk of, like, looking at the pictures and looking at him and people aren't convinced it's him and they think maybe one of two things is happening. It's not him and he's being used as a fall guy, blah, 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 blah. The thing is, he's planned this out, and I feel like with what I have read so far, I think him getting caught was part of the plan. But somebody pointed out that when they were talking about his manifesto that he said parasites, not parasite. So there is a chance that maybe, you know, there was more people on his list. He's saying he worked alone, so I don't know if... Obviously, we don't know what they're looking into as far as that goes. And it'll be really interesting to see because I'm sure, especially being in this position now, like, why would he talk? Why would he tell them anything else? Especially if there was somebody, like, especially if he was working with someone else and they're still out. Like, not saying for this one particular, but maybe you never know. The internet is crazy.
We see what happens when people connect.
Yes.
And they connect and they have these same feelings. It would make sense. Like, if you get caught first and then you go down for this murder and then people are looking over here, other CEOs of other companies that they might be on this parasitic list. That's kind of like one of the theories I've seen out online is that there's more people involved in this and that there are other healthcare CEOs that, like, that's the target. And that if this guy goes down, then everyone, like, takes a breath. Because if I'm the fucking CEO of Blue Shield or Kaiser, whoever, I'm up in my fucking security.
Yeah.
I'm not going places. I'm sitting at home. I'm getting a bulletproof car because we don't know. Like, and that's not paranoia. That's just precaution.
Exactly.
I don't think Brian Thompson walked out that door that day and thought, I have any danger in my life.
Well, interesting. His wife had put out a statement, had been asked about this shortly, like the same day he got shot and killed. And she had stated that he was getting threats. And she made a comment being like, it was about coverage or something, like very like blasé, like, I'm rich. This is not I don't know what the problem was. Like, that, yeah. So that he just didn't take it seriously. It was whatever. And I'm like, well, then that's on your poor judgment at that point, unfortunately.
But I also think that has to do, like, that probably comes with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, probably Jeff Bezos gets threats to him. And, like,
yeah,
you know, just because he is mega rich.
But see, I think, too, you make a really good point, because especially with not only being rich, but also it's your fucking fault that your company's healthcare is so fucking awful, and your decisions are leading to people either dying or being in so much fucking debt that they can't get out of it. They can't fix their credit scores. They can't pay for stuff. They can't buy a house. They can't do what they need to do, you know, all of these things. So I'm sure, like, I want to say unfortunately, because, like, obviously you shouldn't death threat people, but it's like, I agree with you. It's probably a regular thing.
Right. And so he probably didn't take it seriously.
Didn't sound like he did.
That's the only thing I can think of, is that he probably got them a lot. It's an unfortunate situation all around. Like, there's a young man who made a decision to take another man's life. He's 26. Like, he could have made other decisions in the world. He could have, I mean, he seems really intelligent. He could have gone down a different route.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, like, a whole family that's, like, missing a person. And granted, this is one of those times.
There's two families.
Right.
There's two families missing people at this point. So,
and this is one of those times where, like, I was telling Tara, like, America was like, who do we root for?
yeah.
And it was really interesting to watch, like, to sit back and be like, well, I think this is just, like, I don't want, it's uncomfy is for me, for sure. I think that's the appropriate word I have about the situation. It just makes me feel uncomfy.
Yeah. It's like a movie plot. It's like so
Oh my God.
surreal. It is very, very surreal.
Because I've also seen the theories online that, like, Brian Thompson faked his death to, like, get away. Like, I've seen that theory online.
Oh my God, this is not that dude. There's that dude that, like, ran away with his girlfriend to, like, fucking Europe or something and left his wife and kids. So this is not that. The guy's dead.
No, right, exactly. When I was like, people, like, stop trying to, like, narrate this story. Let it play out.
Yes. Okay, just kidding. Before we go, there was one update, so we're here again. So, literally, from right now, it is 10:12 Central Time at night on December 9th. Fuck. He has been charged with the murder. He has officially been charged with 1 count of second-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 1 count of second-degree possession of a forged document, and 1 count of third-degree criminal possession of a weapon, according to the court documents. Media is trying to figure out who his legal counsel is. So anyways, okay, that is the last update for this episode. And we're going to try this again because we tried to go before. But anyways, all right. Well, we will see you next time, guys. Bye.
Doodles.